The night Willow, my movie queen girlfriend, agreed to marry me. She wore seductive lingerie and had an all-night battle with her driver on our wedding bed. She thought everything was flawless and I was completely unaware. However, the footage of their fight had already been stored on my hard drive, and it was too much to fit. Watching her, with her award-winning acting skills, post lovey-dovey pictures with me online every day, while secretly engaging in large-scale battles with others. I remembered the promises she made to me. She once said, "If I ever betray you, I will ruin my reputation, and I'll die a horrible death." So, on the day Willow was supposed to marry me, I did 3 things. The first thing, I sold off all the gifts she had given me. The second thing, I sold all the shares I held in the company. The third thing, I uploaded her infidelity videos all over the internet, ruining her reputation. Mission accomplished. As for the horrible death she promised, that can wait a little longer. Chapter 1. Breaking news. Exposed. Innocent. Pure little flower, the movie queen, gets pregnant after a one-night stand on the eve of her wedding. See you next Monday. I opened Facebook and looked at the 2 trending topics that had already made it to the top of the search list, a bitter smile pulling at the corners of my mouth. Willow and I had been in love for 7 years. I had watched her go from a nobody to a supporting role, then to a leading one, and finally rise to become one of the top 95 actresses in the industry. But I never imagined that one day, I would be the one to destroy her. However, it was Willow who once swore on my chest, saying, "George, I'll belong to you in this life. If I betray you, let me be disgraced and die a horrible death." Die a horrible death. I couldn't make that happen. But disgrace, a call to a famous paparazzo would be enough. 3 keywords: innocent, movie queen, and the eve of the wedding. Each one pointed directly to Willow. I scrolled through the trending topics and watched as Willow's fans tried desperately to defend her, arguing fiercely. One fan wrote, "Next Monday. That's just 7 days away. If it's Willow, I'll poop upside down. If not, all the haters should come and apologize on their knees." Impossible. Willow and her boyfriend met when they were young. They've been in a long-term relationship for years. Exactly. My baby's Facebook records their story. It's legendary. They were classmates, and when she was bullied, her boyfriend stepped up. He was severely injured and fell into a coma, but Willow stayed by his side, taking care of him. They can even be considered love at first sight. Right after the college entrance exams, they got together. Yeah, and Willow is so brainy about love. During a variety show, a sharp-tongued host once hinted that wouldn't it be stressful if her boyfriend was earning less, and she might feel like she had no place in the family. Willow seriously replied that whoever earns more in the family is lucky, and that there's no rule that the men must earn more. She also said she was always dependent on her boyfriend, and listened to him about everything. When she won Best Newcomer, she even asked the organizers if the award could be converted to cash, saying she wanted to buy her boyfriend a computer. At that time, many of the fans who shipped the female lead scolded her for being love-brained. Do you really think she could cheat? I was speechless. I watched as her fans listed all the proofs of her love for me. I lowered my head, smiling self-deprecatingly, hiding the disappointment and loneliness in my eyes. Everyone said Willow loved me deeply, to the bone, but who would have thought that the one who swore she would never leave me, would secretly find herself a lover right under my nose. Every night when I slept, she'd sneak off into the nanny van to get cozy with the driver. I watched frame by frame those sensual scenes, hearing the obscene moans. My heart was torn wide open, bleeding profusely. The love story that everyone thought was perfect and flawless was, in fact, horribly ugly. I had lost my parents at a young age, and went to school hungry every other day. So, I never paid class fees or joined class activities, becoming more and more reclusive and indifferent. I was the oddball everyone talked about. But it was Willow who took the initiative to sit next to me one day, arrogantly asking if I would teach her math. In exchange, she promised to bring me lunch every day. She was like a ray of light, illuminating my dark world. So, anyone who dared to bully her, George would not let them off easy. But now, she pulled me out of the mud, only to push me into the abyss. I shook off the memories, opened another app, and without hesitation, bought myself a plane ticket for 7 days from now. For the past 8 years, I had been revolving around Willow. From now on, I would courageously pursue my own dreams. Just as I finished booking the ticket, my phone rang. "Mr. Wong, your custom wedding suit has arrived. Please come and try it on." I responded flatly. As I looked up, Willow was walking toward me. Tonight was the grand award ceremony where Willow would receive a major accolade. I didn't want to go, but Willow insisted that I attend, saying that I couldn't miss any important moment of her life. During the award speech, she once again made a heartfelt confession. This time, I wasn't moved at all. I just felt a sense of irony. I felt nauseous and left midway. Willow said, "George, I couldn't get through to you. I was so worried. Why didn't you call to let me know you'd come?" Willow grabbed my hand and examined me from head to toe, confirming I was fine before letting out a long sigh of relief. I looked at her, sweat beading on her forehead, the worry in her eyes so real. I couldn't understand how someone who loved me so much could betray me like this. She said, "George, you must tell me when you're leaving next time. You can't just disappear without a word. If something happens to you, what will I do?" I straightened my suit and smiled at her. "Did you see the trending topics? The main character in the gossip. It wouldn't happen to be you, would it?" "What trending topic?" Willow pulled out her phone and glanced at it. A shadow flashed across her eyes, but it quickly faded as she became gentle again. She pouted and threw herself into my arms, saying, "You really think too much. How could it be me? Don't you know how much I love you?" Her tone was so sincere that it almost clouded my judgment. I looked at her and said, "Yeah, do you remember the vow you made? If you betray me." Before I could finish, Willow quickly completed the sentence for me, saying, "I will ruin my reputation and die a horrible death." Chapter 2. Willow's expression was calm, as though the person who had been sneaking around with the driver every night wasn't her. I knew Willow would never believe it unless she saw concrete proof, but it didn't matter. I had already arranged everything. 7 days from now, the same fans who were desperately defending her online would turn on her, biting back fiercely. Those who betray true love deserve to be pricked with 1,000 needles. At that moment, I had no interest in testing her acting skills any further. I said quietly, "My custom suit is ready. I'll go try it on." She replied, "Okay." As we walked, Willow excitedly planned our future together, completely oblivious to the coldness in my expression. She said, "George, I've cancelled all my bookings this month. Let's go on a road trip to the beach. How about it?" She gripped my hand with both of hers, as though she were afraid I would slip away. I nonchalantly pulled my hand from hers and smiled. "You seem to be really into road trips lately. Didn't you say you used to get car sick easily? Who made it so you don't get car sick anymore?" I thought. Probably that young, handsome driver. Willow, thinking she had concealed everything well, assumed I was joking. She coquettishly replied, "Yeah, my boyfriend is my cure for motion sickness. As long as you're with me, I can ride in any car without feeling sick." The car stopped, and the attendant was already waiting at the door. When the attendant saw us, her eyes brightened. She said, "You must be Mr. Wang and Miss Liu, right? Such a perfect couple. This wedding dress is a one-of-a-kind design, created especially for Miss Liu by her." She led us into the fitting room to try on the clothes. Along the way, I glanced up and saw Willow completely absorbed in her phone, her eyes barely concealing the desire within. The attendant called out to her several times before her gaze finally shifted from her phone to me. She said, "George, you look so handsome. No wonder you're my husband." Saying this, she threw herself into my arms, stood on tiptoe, and kissed my chin. The tenderness in her eyes made me pause. Then she quickly said, "George, I've got an urgent matter. I'll send the driver to pick you up later." Without another word, she hurriedly left, never even trying on her wedding dress. She was off to meet her little lover. I withdrew my gaze, coldly undressing from the suit. As I was leaving, the attendant chased after me and asked, "Mr. Wang, are you not satisfied with the wedding dress? We can make adjustments based on your feedback." I replied, "No need. The dress clearly didn't fit well." I wonder what was going through Willow's mind when she gave the measurements to the attendant. Clothes can be altered, but people who don't fit, they just have to be discarded. I took off the confining tuxedo and put on a comfortable, loose sweatshirt. A sense of relief washed over me. I didn't wait for Willow to come looking for me. I went straight home. Just as I reached the villa gate, my phone in my pocket vibrated repeatedly. I opened it to find dozens of explicit pictures and a few videos. I brightened and zoomed in, my eyes fixated on the woman in the video. She was wearing the amulet belt I had personally obtained for her, swinging wildly with the movements of the person on top of her. Makoto's message popped up. "Willow thanks you in front of billions." So what? With just a snap of my fingers, she'll obediently come to me. "George, Willow's body is already filled with my things. Do you still want her?" I shakily shoved the phone back into my pocket and opened the door. Willow was in the walk-in closet, wearing a lace slip dress, exuding sexiness. She asked, "George, why are you back so soon? I was planning to change and then go have hot pot with you." She hurried over, her big innocent eyes fluttering at me. I smelled the sickly sweet, fishy scent on her, and my stomach churned. I couldn't help but bend over and vomit all over the floor. "George, what's wrong with you? Are you feeling sick? Let me take you to the hospital." She quickly pulled out her phone, saying, "Makoto, come upstairs. We're going to the hospital soon." Hurried footsteps could be heard coming from the stairs. Makoto's voice echoed, "What's wrong? Willow sister, are you feeling unwell?" His tone was full of concern, completely uncharacteristic of a driver. I clenched my fists unconsciously, and the vivid, lewd images flashed through my mind. Chapter 3. For a moment, Willow was stunned. She coughed a couple of times, trying to cover up the awkwardness, and then said, "It's not me. George is just having stomach issues, and, from now on, don't call me sister, call me Miss Lou." Makoto, however, showed no fear. He casually responded, "Okay, Miss Lou, I won't call you sister anymore." The two of them were flirting right in front of me, their gazes almost sticky. I bent over again and vomited violently, finally throwing up nothing but bile. On the way to the hospital, I stared out the window in silence, while Willow nestled in my arms. In the rearview mirror, I saw Makoto's jealous gaze, almost like it was shooting flames at me. I frowned. Willow, thinking I was just suffering from more stomach pain, shed a few tears and said, "George, if you hadn't been so busy accompanying me to film everywhere and eating irregularly, you wouldn't have gotten such a bad stomach condition." It wasn't until the nurse attached an IV to me and I fell into a deep sleep that Willow finally seemed to relax. She sat beside my bed, tightly holding my cold hand, constantly breathing warmth into it. When the nurse told her that the doctor wanted to see her, she reluctantly let go of my hand. Once the door closed, I slowly opened my eyes. The nurse said, "Miss Lou truly loves you." Her words were full of admiration as she continued, "When I gave you the IV, she cried as if she were the one being pricked." I didn't respond, and the nurse continued, "She even confessed her love for you in front of so many people. Mr. Wong, you must cherish Miss Lou." Listening to these words, I felt nothing but numbness. Willow really was a master at acting, just like she had been for the past 8 years. The doctor said, "Your husband has severe gastric ulcers and esophageal reflux. Irregular meals or cold weather could cause vomiting and stomach cramps. If not treated promptly, it could develop into stomach cancer." When Willow heard the words stomach cancer, her brow furrowed deeply. She immediately said, "Use the best medicine for him." With that, she hurried back to the hospital room with a look of deep concern. When the door opened, I had no time to hide my disgust. She asked, "George, how did your stomach condition get so serious?" The doctor said. I looked up and met Willow's concerned gaze, filled with worry and urgency. I could not believe that this was all fake. I couldn't convince myself that she was pretending, but if it were true, then why would she cheat on me right under my nose? Willow noticed something was off with my mood and thought I was scared. She quickly wiped her tears and forced a smile. She said, "It's okay, George. I've asked the doctor to use the best medicine. We'll get you better. You still need to take me around the world." I once longed to travel the world with Willow, to see the sunrise in Anaya, the sunset in California, the waterfalls in Zambia, and the blue tears on Niama Island. But now, I didn't think she deserved it. Those beautiful sights should not be tainted. I said, "Willow, the investor sent an invitation. Let's go watch Wong Lu's love story on screen." This movie was an adaptation of a love story based on Us, written by true fans. The rights had already been bought by a film company and adapted into a movie. The soundtrack was even written and performed by me. Willow, who had been preoccupied with Makoto, had forgotten all about this. She quickly made a call to her assistant. "Cancel all my appointments for the next 2 days. I have other arrangements." After hanging up, she held me tight again. She said, "George, I'll stay by your side always. You must promise me you'll take good care of yourself, and tell me if anything makes you unhappy." I didn't show any emotion and merely nodded faintly. From the reflection in the hospital room window, I saw Willow take out her phone and stop at the WeChat page. She double-tapped to zoom in on the images sent from the other side, images that were indescribable. She typed 2 words, "Wait for me." I closed my eyes, and the sharp pain seemed to tear me apart. Willow pressed her lips together and gently helped me lie back down. She said, "George, rest well. I'm going home to get some things. The doctor said you should stay in the hospital for a couple of days." Before she left, she tried to kiss me, but I dodged. I said, "Go quickly. I'm tired." As soon as Willow left, Makoto sent me a video. I didn't even need to open it to know how explosive it would be. I downloaded the original image and saved it in a hidden album, along with the others. WeChat popped up with Makoto's message. He said, "You think you can keep her all to yourself by pretending to be sick with moral high ground?" I turned off the constantly vibrating phone and ignored his provocation. I had made up my mind to leave, and I wouldn't let anything distract me from my decision. I wondered, when Willow found out I was gone, would she regret it? And would she feel pain? For the first time, I wanted to see her suffer, to watch her fall apart. Chapter 4. On the day of the premiere, Willow arrived at the hospital early to pick me up and even playfully insisted that I wear matching couple outfits with her. Willow hooked her arm around mine and led me to the front row, where fans kept rushing up to ask for autographs. One fan said, "Your story made me believe in love. Can we take a picture together?" Willow smiled and gently refused. "Sorry, my husband isn't feeling well." I stood up and said, "It's fine. Willow pressed herself tightly against my chest and made a heart gesture toward the camera. The movie began, and the first scene showed the bullies tormenting her. I couldn't help but feel a deep sigh. I never imagined that the kind girl I once fought to protect would turn into a lying cheat. The plot quickly reached the scene where I confessed my love to her, and the fans in the theater erupted into cheers. Willow's phone kept ringing, and she repeatedly hung up, but the person on the other end kept calling back. She was restless, crossing and uncrossing her legs. After hanging up again, she leaned close to my ear and whispered, "George, it's the director calling. I'll go answer it and be right back." I watched her walk quickly out of the theater, her heels clicking on the floor. She tripped on the smooth carpet but quickly caught her balance. I stiffly turned my head and looked down at my phone. The message read, "George, look up to your right." I jerked my head up and looked in that direction. The dark red curtain on the right was lifted slightly, and there was Makoto, also dressed in a matching couple outfit, raising an eyebrow at me. Makoto had a mischievous grin on his face, mouthing a single word, "Deserved." In the next moment, a slender hand rested on Makoto's chest, moving up and down. I caught a fleeting glimpse of the sapphire ring I gave Willow, the global limited edition, flashing on her finger. The movie continued, but I could see nothing and hear nothing. All I could think about were their entwined bodies. Behind the thin curtain, a brief moment of passion. Half an hour later, Makoto sent me another message. "The movie's soundtrack is great, but she says she prefers when I call her little slut. What do you think?" Accompanying the message was a high-definition photo of Willow. Her eyes glazed, a glimmer of moisture at the corner of her lips. My fingers tightened around the phone, turning white, and my stomach twisted in pain. As the movie neared its end, Willow hurried back. She asked, "George, why do you look so pale? Are you feeling worse?" She squatted down in front of me, her expression tense as she examined me, but my gaze, instead of meeting her eyes, drifted to the visible bite marks on her neck, ranging in size. I felt confused, and without thinking, I asked, "Willow, aren't you afraid?" She asked, "George, what are you talking about? What am I supposed to be afraid of?" I thought. Afraid of retribution. The premiere ended, and the theater erupted in thunderous applause. Willow took my arm, and we walked to the exit. Flashes from cameras lighting up the room. People around us whispered, "I've heard Lou, the top actress, is all about love. Now we've seen it for ourselves. Did you see the watch on her fiancé's wrist? It's the only one in the world." Amid exaggerated gasps, I removed the priceless watch from my wrist and casually tossed it near the trash can. What good is something so expensive? The hands are always half a minute behind. Someone called out, "Sir, you dropped your watch." Makoto suddenly appeared at the door. Willow's face changed, and she froze, still holding onto my arm. She quickly regained her composure and said, "I asked Makoto to come. I thought you were too tired, so I had him drive us home. Don't like the watch anymore? It's okay. I'll buy you a new one, darling." The crowd began to disperse, and everyone who passed by stared at us. I pointed at the watch in the trash can and said in a calm voice, "Makoto, the watch is yours now." Some people noticed that Makoto was dressed similarly to me, as if he and Willow were also wearing matching couple outfits. Makoto glared at Willow, but she didn't respond, keeping her arm linked with mine as we walked away. Because of the matching outfits, Willow naturally didn't let Makoto drive us home. On the way back, Willow explained, "The first outfit was the wrong size, so I just gave it to Makoto, who knew he'd be so inconsiderate and actually wear it out. If you don't like it, I'll fire him when we get home and hire a new driver." I kept staring out the window, saying nothing. I knew Willow was waiting for me to plead on Makoto's behalf, so she could reluctantly keep him. The silence stretched, and only the sound of our breathing filled the car. Willow studied my expression, but didn't find anything unusual, and her tense demeanor relaxed. She said, "But you know that my career is in its ascendant phase. Constantly changing people around me would affect my work. Makoto's been quite capable, so let's forgive him this time. I'll deduct his salary for a month as punishment." "George, what do you think?" I turned my head to look at the woman I once loved. In her dark pupils, I saw the reflection of my own thin face. When did her love scale tip toward another man? She seemed to want to say more, but I simply said, "I think it's fine. Only 5 days left until next Monday. The trash should be thrown into the trash bin, and the rotten lover should be discarded just the same." Chapter 5. In the early morning, Willow tiptoed out of the room. After a while, I heard the rustling sound of clothes from downstairs. I opened my eyes in the darkness, then slowly made my way downstairs, stopping outside the garage door. Through the door, I could hear the suppressed gasps of a man and woman, intertwining as they reached my ears. "Willow, why did you take so long? I'm going to punish you badly." Makoto's voice was rough and forceful as he said, "Willow, who's better, me or him?" Willow's voice was fragmented, saying, "Of course, you're better." I braced myself against the wall, my muscles trembling. I clenched my fists tightly, suppressing the urge to storm in and beat Makoto senseless. I thought I had accepted it, but actually experiencing Willow's betrayal, my heart felt like it was gripped by an invisible hand, making it hard to breathe. I was just 17 when I got together with Willow. I would never forget the way she cried with joy when she accepted my confession on her 18th birthday. Back then, I felt a happiness I had never known, believing I had found my soulmate. Now, when I look back, it feels nothing but bitterly ironic. The sounds from inside the room gradually faded. Willow's voice broke the silence. Who told you to go in front of George today? Be careful from now on. If he finds out about you and me. I couldn't help but laugh softly. Willow still thought of me. Makoto's voice interrupted. I'm sorry. I just couldn't wait for you. Besides, didn't you say you liked being claimed in different places? It was pretty exciting, right? There were thousands of people behind that curtain. How about trying it in a park next time? Willow's legs wrapped around his waist again, and she teased. You're full of tricks. Makoto bit her earlobe, whispering, do you like it? Willow winced. Keep it down. Don't wake George. Makoto responded. Don't worry. He's sleeping soundly. He hasn't figured out that you've been under me every night for the past 6 months. As the sounds of their activity escalated, I made my way back to my room. Step by step, all sleep had left me, and I began to gather my things. If I was going to disappear, I wanted to do so cleanly. I counted the 8 years I spent with Willow. When I was 17, she gave me a set of white shirts, saying I looked more like a scholar in them. I wore one of those shirts the day I protected her from bullies. Over time, the collar loosened, and the fabric yellowed, but I never had the heart to throw it away. At 18, on my birthday, Willow gave me a guitar. On her birthday, I played the guitar and confessed my love to her with the song, Chin Fei Da E. At 20, we went to Hawaii to see the ocean, taking hundreds of photos together, each of them filled with our sweet smiles. At 22, she won an award and bought a small island, naming it after us. At 25, in front of our friends and family, I proposed to her. And countless other gifts, all from her. She had always been generous with me. I packed everything up, one item at a time, and listed it on second-hand platforms for sale. Starting bid, 1 yuan. As the first light of dawn crept in, hurried footsteps echoed downstairs. Willow, her hair disheveled, had lost one of her slippers. She asked, George, why did you sell everything I gave you? I saw someone buy the 2 million yuan watch for just $50. George, what's going on? The concern and unease in her eyes were genuine. Her instincts told her something was wrong. I casually brushed it off. Nothing. I just saw a news story about an orphanage on Facebook, and I thought I should do my part to help those kids. I had contacted a charity organization, and all the money from the sales would be donated to the orphanage. Only then did Willow seem to relax. She buried her face in my chest, her voice trembling. She said, George, you scared me. I thought you were going to leave me. Chapter 6. You could just tell me if you want to do something good. We can donate directly. Would 10 million be enough? As long as you're happy, we can afford whatever you want. I had no desire to discern the sincerity behind her words. Willow, they're like me, without parents, but unlike me. They're not fortunate enough to meet a good wife like you. Willow didn't catch the sarcasm in my voice. Instead, she felt a wave of guilt flood her heart. She had made up her mind to dismiss Makoto after our wedding, dedicating the rest of her life solely to loving me. She said, George, then let's host a charity gala. We'll invite famous directors and actors and encourage them to make donations. My response wasn't as enthusiastic as Willow had hoped. I spoke with indifference. If you're happy, then it's fine. The charity gala was set for the following evening, and Willow stayed busy organizing everything, claiming she wouldn't be home that night. Makoto, of course, was there as her driver and would be with her at all times. I didn't question it, as Makoto always sent me detailed updates about their itinerary. Sure enough, they went to the park, by the grass, beside the lotus pond, and on the hillside. He said, Willow told me that after marrying you, she would stay loyal to you. So these past few days she's been letting me have her over and over again. She's practically drained me dry. George, do you think she can stay faithful to just you? After tasting all the delicacies, how could she settle for plain porridge? I numbly scrolled through the messages, my temples throbbing with pain. But the deadliest blow came next. A voice message played. Makoto, I'm pregnant with your child. You must keep this a secret. Don't tell anyone. Once the child is born, I'll have him call you Godfather. At least that way he can recognize his roots. Willow's voice pierced my heart. She was pregnant. No wonder her diet had become lighter recently. There were also photos of Makoto accompanying Willow to her prenatal checkups, gently supporting her and placing his hand on her belly, looking every bit the loving couple. Just days ago, a reporter had snapped photos of Willow entering and exiting the obstetrics and gynecology clinic, sparking a frenzy on Facebook, almost ruined by the scandal. Willow, the leading lady from Monday's press conference, Had to hold a special press event. She dragged me along, still suffering from a stomachache. In front of the cameras, we held hands tightly and announced our wedding by the end of the month. She said, "I've always wanted to have a child with George, but I had some health issues after filming action scenes and soaking in cold water for too long. Recently, I've been visiting the doctor to improve my health so I can have a baby soon." At the time, I actually believed her. The press went wild with the story, portraying Willow's willingness to give up her career to have a child for love. To this day, that story still circulates in the trending news. I numbly turned off my phone. At least there were only 4 days left. The charity gala went on as planned. I appeared at the event in a well-tailored suit, looking no less impressive than any actor. In fact, some directors even handed me their business cards, inviting me to star in their films. I smiled politely, shaking my head and refusing. But Willow noticed my unusually calm demeanor. It was like a stagnant pool of water. Her George no longer had any light in his eyes. Her anxiety returned in waves, and she walked over to grab my hand, only for me to pull away. I said, "There are so many people waiting. Let's start the donation ceremony first." Willow's outstretched hand was left empty, and she clapped her hands, signaling that the donation ceremony was about to begin. Amid the applause, Willow invited everyone to attend our wedding. She said, "In just half a month, George and I will get married, and I sincerely invite everyone to witness our moment of happiness." After the ceremony, Willow had the driver take me home. She said, "The banquet will probably take a little longer, so I need to socialize for a while. Honey, I know your stomach isn't well, so I had the maid make some congee for you. Make sure you drink it when you get home." I nodded and got into the car, but just 5 minutes into the ride, a message from Makoto arrived. He said, "Hee, there's a good show coming up." Chapter 7. I decisively instructed the driver to turn around. I left something in the banquet hall. "Wait for me in the underground garage, and don't tell Miss Lou." I returned to the banquet hall, but what greeted me was an entirely different scene. The deafening music, the clinking of glasses, and the crowd of people exchanging toasts. My eyes immediately found Willow, curled up in Makoto's arms, and it seemed that the people there had long since grown accustomed to their intimacy. Just moments ago, a well-known director had wished me a lifetime of happiness, but now he was grinning slyly, teasing Willow. "At home, you're the little darling, but out here, you play so wildly. Your poor husband must be miserable." I even saw Willow's younger sister, Maria, mingling with them. The same Maria who used to call me brother-in-law so affectionately, now chatting eagerly with Makoto. She asked, "Brother-in-law, is the baby in my sister's belly a boy or a girl?" Willow turned to her sister, correcting her seriously. "Don't call him that. George is the only brother-in-law I have." Maria pouted. "I know you love George to death, but it's not like he's around. Plus, Makoto isn't a stranger. Besides, didn't Mom also like Makoto?" At that moment, it felt as though thunder had struck me. Willow's mother knew about Makoto. It turned out I was the only one kept in the dark, like a fool being played around by their entire family. Willow replied, "George is still your brother-in-law, no matter where he is. Don't call him that again." Maria reluctantly responded, "All right, I get it. Sir, would you like to enter?" I waved my hand, fleeing in panic, as the waiter watched me, puzzled. The noise at the entrance caught Willow's attention, and she seemed to have seen someone who resembled me. Suddenly, she jumped to her feet, pushed Makoto aside, and rushed toward the door. The corridor was empty. Had she been mistaken? She called over a waiter to ask if they had seen a man dressed appropriately. The waiter thought for a moment, then shook their head. They had seen a man, but his tie was loose, his hair disheveled, and his face pale, not exactly fitting the description of well-dressed. Still uneasy, Willow called the driver. The driver replied, "Miss Lou, Mr. Wang has been in the car this whole time, and he's about to reach home." Willow returned to the banquet hall, somewhat distracted. Although both the waiter and the driver had denied it, that figure looked so much like George, she couldn't bear to think of what might happen if George saw her with Makoto. "Willow, what's wrong?" Makoto, like a lustful beast, leaned in toward her. Willow had no interest in entangling herself with him. She needed to go home immediately to confirm that George hadn't returned. But Makoto's skilled hands were already wandering between her thighs, igniting a fire of desire within her. She tried to reassure herself that they would be married by the end of the month, and everything would settle. But once desire was awakened, it was hard to control. She wrapped her arms around Makoto's neck, and he, understanding her intentions, scooped her up in his arms. Together, they walked into the adjacent private room under the knowing gaze of the crowd. The car pulled into the garage and stopped smoothly. I took out my phone, and Makoto's request for a video call popped up. I shooed the driver away and began recording the screen. I heard a voice. "Makoto, go easy on me." It was Willow's voice, filled with longing. Makoto responded, "Willow, does he do it like I do?" As Makoto spoke, His eyes were fixed directly on the camera, staring at me through the lens. Chapter 8. The next morning, I was woken by an overpowering, pungent fragrance. The whole room was filled with blooming lilies. I'm allergic to lily pollen. I tried to scream for help, but my throat was blocked, and no sound came out. Makoto stood amidst the lilies, looking at me with malicious intent. He said, "Mr. Wong, Willow's latest film just won an award. Do you think the flowers I prepared for her are beautiful?" I wanted to open the window, but I couldn't move my feet. The burning sensation in my eyes, combined with the suffocating feeling, caused me to collapse on the stairs. When I woke up, it was already the next day. I was in the hospital. I still felt some tightness in my chest, and there were small red rashes scattered across my exposed neck. Willow's hair was messy, and there were dark circles under her eyes. This morning, she had felt an intense sense of unease on set. After informing the director, she rushed home. When she opened the door, she found me unconscious. On the way to the hospital, her fear reached its peak. When she saw my bloodless face, my tightly closed eyes, and the dense red rashes on my body, she couldn't help but cry. She said, "George, please don't leave me. I can't live without you." I was pushed into the emergency room, and Willow turned to slap Makoto hard across the face. She yelled, "Didn't you know George is allergic to lilies? Are you trying to kill him?" Makoto, covering his face, played innocent. He said, "Willow, I was so happy about your award that I forgot about Mr. Wong's lily allergy. I just wanted him to feel my congratulations as soon as he got home." Seeing that Makoto was also acting out of good intentions, and knowing that she had just slapped him, Willow's anger softened, and she couldn't bring herself to pursue it any further. She stayed by my side the entire night without sleeping, only resting when the morning light started to break. "George, you're awake. You really scared me to death." Her voice was hoarse as she threw herself into my chest and cried. I let her hold me and said, "Did I almost die?" Willow stiffened, and after a long pause, she said, "George, it's all my fault. I asked Makoto to go home and prepare for tonight's celebration banquet. Who knew he'd forget about your allergy to lilies?" I silently watched her, noting the pain on her face that didn't seem like it was fake, and asked, "Where's Makoto?" She replied, "He knows he messed up. I slapped him. He's in the next room applying medicine." What a good act of self-sacrifice. She continued, "George, Makoto didn't mean it. I've already scolded him and slapped him. I'll have him stay at his hometown for a few days to avoid disturbing you and making you upset." Even now, she was still trying to excuse her lover. I asked, "Willow, will you fall in love with someone else?" I suddenly asked this question, and it startled her. The insecurity and fear inside her surged again. Lately, she had been feeling that I had changed, but she couldn't quite figure out where. I quietly stared at her, the woman I had loved for 8 years. The thought of destroying her myself still made my feelings somewhat complicated. So, I wanted to know, did she feel any remorse? Was she willing to admit her relationship with Makoto? But a dog that eats shit can never turn back. As expected, she said, "Of course not. I've only ever loved you in this life, and I'm stuck with you. You're not allowed to fall in love with anyone else. Okay." She said it so sincerely, as though she had never done anything wrong to me. I gave her a chance, but she's no use. Don't blame me for turning my back on her. Since Makoto wants my life, then let's destroy it all. Willow seemed to sense my softened expression and leaned on me, starting to reminisce about our sweet past together. Chapter 9. For a period of time, due to Willow's demanding job, we were often apart, but no matter how late or how tired I was, we had to call each other every day. Later, Willow begged me to quit my job. She said, "Music is so tiring. I can't bear to see you work so hard. Besides, I have so many movies to shoot now. I can support both of us." Unable to resist her persistent pleas, I reluctantly disbanded my band, gave up on my dream of music, and chose to stay by Willow's side, becoming the man behind her. My friends teased me as a house husband, some even lamenting that I was throwing away my musical talent. But I said, when two people are together, one of them has to make a sacrifice. I can't bear to let her give up the acting she loves. I quietly listened to her talk, but her phone kept ringing in her pocket. Without even looking, she dismissed the call, but the next moment it rang again. Eventually, she reluctantly answered the phone. From a distance, I couldn't hear what was said on the other end, but I could see the change in Willow's expression. Her once clear eyes slowly filled with the flames of desire. Before the call was even over, I received a message from Makoto. He said, "Mr. Wong, Willow is heartbroken after our call. I've invited her to our wedding suite. Do you think she'll come looking for me?" Just a moment ago, she had said she was going back to her hometown. Turns out, she had hidden herself in the new house. I had barely finished reading the message when Willow walked over, her face full of apologies. She said, "Sorry, dear, the crew suddenly needs to reshoot a scene." I replied flatly, "Willow, You're an actress. I want to ask you, can love also be acted out? Willow's heart tightened when she heard my question. She almost thought too much and smiled. Of course, otherwise, how could there be so many movies that people get addicted to? I asked. Then what about you? Are you acting when you're with me? She pouted, pulling my hand and shaking it playfully. She said, who can act for 8 years straight? Even fake feelings become real over time. If I were that good, I'd have won an Oscar by now. 8 years. I believed she had loved me. Maybe she still loved me now, but that couldn't be a reason for her to be forgiven after betraying me. I've always understood when to walk away. Willow couldn't understand the look in my eyes. The love that once filled them was now gone, replaced by emptiness. Suddenly, she hesitated, feeling a strong sense that she might lose me. But then Makoto's call came in again, and on the other end, he said in a cocky tone, Willow, I've learned a new move. Want to try it out? The wedding invitations had already been sent out. What else could happen? She suppressed her unease and said softly, I promise I'll finish the reshoot as soon as possible. It won't delay our wedding. You also rest and take care of your health. I'm still waiting to be your bride. I watched her turn and leave, her back slowly fading out of sight. I whispered to myself, Willow, goodbye. 3 seconds later, Makoto called again. This was the first time he had called to provoke and challenge me. George, I'm lying on your wedding bed right now, and I've prepared a bunny girl lingerie set for Willow. You've already been in the emergency room, and Willow didn't care about you. Do you think she'll care about you, the groom, on your wedding day? Haha. In all of Makoto's past provocations, I never responded, but now, everything was about to end. I slowly spoke. Makoto, you're just a clown. The position of the groom is yours now. Willow, I'm done with you. Willow was gone for 3 full days, and during that time, I received a constant stream of messages from Makoto. Willow's legs wrapped around Makoto's waist like they were boneless. On the wedding bed, there were used protection items scattered around. I saved everything, packed it up, and sent it to the paparazzi. I also organized the financial problems Willow had into a data report and scheduled it to be sent to the official email on Monday morning. After doing all of this, I sat in a black business car. As I passed Willow's chauffeur car, I glanced at her one last time. Then, I put on my sunglasses and said, let's go. When the paparazzi revealed the evidence of Willow's affair, I was already on a plane to a foreign country. From then on, she was ruined reputation, and I, reborn. Chapter 10. In our wedding suite, it was a scene of spring blooming. Willow cried and begged for mercy, but Makoto showed no sign of pity. He moved fiercely, as if he wanted to crush the person beneath him. With a muffled groan, Willow's legs fell limp from Makoto's waist. She pointed at her bruised and battered body, pouting. What's wrong with you today? You're not being gentle at all, Makoto gasped, his voice low. You're marrying George in a few days. If I don't go wild now, I might not have another chance. Willow glanced at the scattered used protection on the bedside, her face darkening. She bit her lip and said, Makoto, I warn you, stop with the tricks. Clean everything up. Makoto, thinking about the images and videos he had already sent, looked at her with growing ambition. He leaned down and circled his arms around Willow. Have you never thought about kicking him out and marrying me instead? Willow's expression immediately turned cold as she pushed him away and warned. Impossible. I love George. You're nothing compared to him. Stop dreaming. Makoto didn't get angry. So what if she loved George? George already knew that they had been secretly involved for months. Would he still love her? Willow said, as long as you don't make trouble, I'll give you a large sum of money after I marry George. It'll be enough for you to get married and have children. Makoto's kiss trailed from her lips down her neck. The next morning, Willow finally crawled out from under Makoto's grasp. During a break from filming, Willow took out her phone and switched it to silent mode. To her surprise, aside from a few work-related texts, there were no messages from George. She felt uneasy and took the initiative to send him a message. George, I miss you so much. But, as expected, all her messages were left unanswered. She stared at the full signal bar, a sense of unease creeping over her. The phone rang for a long time, and when she finally heard my voice, her anxious heart finally calmed. She asked, George, why didn't you reply to my messages? At that moment, I had just landed in Austria. She asked again, George, where are you? Why haven't you replied? I replied, I just went for a run. What's wrong? Willow's voice softened. The reshoot is almost done. After that, how about we go on a trip together? I answered with a simple Next Monday is your birthday. I've got a gift ready for you. Willow asked eagerly. What did you get me for my birthday, George? I said. Of course, the gift will only mean something when you open it yourself. Go ahead and get back to work. I'll be waiting for you at home. Willow continued to speak sweetly for a while, but I grew disgusted listening to her. If it weren't for the fact that my immigration paperwork still needed 2 more days to complete, I wouldn't have even bothered picking up the phone. I patiently gave a few perfunctory answers, and her anxious heart finally settled. She was certain that I would never leave her, no matter what unforgivable mistakes she made. As soon as I hung up, Makoto called with a video message. Behind him were a full set of whipping tools. Willow's face flushed as she bit her lip and said, "Master, wait for me." At this point, she had completely forgotten her role as an actress, leaving the set without a word and rushing straight into her lover's arms. It was Willow's birthday weekend. She said she wanted to spend it with me, but halfway there, Makoto called, claiming he had appendicitis. Willow turned back to take him to the hospital, where he was examined and found to have no major issues for the time being. Willow patiently comforted him. The doctor said it's chronic appendicitis. A few injections and it'll be fine. If you need anything, just let me know. I'll send it over. Makoto wouldn't let go of her, holding on tightly. Willow, you're about to get married. Can't you let me spend your last birthday with you? Willow's eyes flickered with desire, but she remembered George waiting for her at home. So, she replied, "It's just one birthday. I'll spend it with George and come find you after. Wait for me." After saying that, she shook off Makoto's hand and walked out. Makoto wasn't willing to let her go. He jumped off the bed and blocked her path. He said, "Willow, I bought a nurse's outfit. Can you wear it for me?" As he spoke, his fingers slid down. Willow made a light sound, and in the next moment, Makoto picked her up. He said, "Nurse, come and check my body." A moment later, the sounds of Willow's gasps and Makoto's muffled groans echoed through the room. A patient in the next room, who was a fan of Willow, pushed open the door to the ward, and was shocked by the scene in front of her. She quickly backed out, her face turning red. She was certain it was Willow, but the man she was entwined with wasn't her fiancé. Confused, she secretly took out her phone and started recording. Makoto was certainly an excellent lover, and his skills in bed left Willow thoroughly satisfied. After the long session, it was nearly dawn. Willow reluctantly said goodbye to Makoto. On the way to the car, the night breeze flowing through the window made her head clearer. She began to regret not resisting Makoto's temptation. She had promised George she would be home to celebrate his birthday, but with just 15 minutes until midnight, her birthday would soon be over. Chapter 11. Willow slammed her foot on the gas pedal and sped back to the villa. Too rushed to even close the car door properly as she dashed inside. "George, I'm back. I'm sorry. The shoot ran late." The entire villa was eerily silent, and apart from her hurried breathing, there was no sound. She turned on all the lights and looked around the house, a strong sense of unease sweeping over her. Standing at the staircase for a moment, Willow forced her stiff legs to move and walked toward the second floor. As soon as she opened the bedroom door, she spotted a gift box on the bed. She hurriedly opened it, only to find used protection and a hospital ultrasound report inside. Willow's head spun, and the world went black for a moment. Usually composed, she now trembled uncontrollably. Shakily, she pulled out a note from under the box. It was written in my handwriting. "I've taken care of Makoto's descendants for you. No need to thank me. Goodbye." Her legs buckled, and Willow collapsed onto the floor. After a long while, she finally managed to take out her phone and dial my number, her fingers trembling. The cold, mechanical voice on the other end cut through the silence of the night. "The number you've dialed is unavailable. Please try again later." Boom, boom, boom. The clock downstairs chimed at exactly midnight, marking the end of her birthday. "Mr. Wong, the paperwork has been completed. Here is your identification. Welcome to Austria." I gazed at the distant Alps. This truly was a place to start over. I smiled and thanked him. The boat had passed through 1,000 mountains. Willow stumbled down the stairs, and just as the car engine roared to life, she hit the gas pedal again and sped out. Makoto had just fallen asleep when the door to his hospital room was suddenly kicked open. He frowned and opened his eyes, ready to yell at whoever dared to disturb his rest. But standing in the doorway was none other than Willow. "Back again." He grinned and said, "Willow, hungry again?" He knew Willow couldn't bear to leave him alone at night, that she would rush back to him as soon as she was done with her birthday. The movie queen would eventually be his wife. He reached out to hug her, but she slapped him hard across the face. Makoto touched his burning cheek in disbelief and asked, "Willow, have you lost your mind? Why did you hit me?" Willow's eyes burned with fury as she pointed at him and asked, "Did you intentionally show those dirty things to George?" Makoto quickly denied. "I didn't do anything." "Willow, you have to believe me. Liar." Willow snatched Makoto's phone and, with shaking hands, scrolled through his messages with George. With each scroll, her heart sank further. Images, videos, audios, and chat screenshots, Makoto's provocations and boasting over the past 2 months. Willow threw the phone to the floor, screaming at him. "I warned you not to let George find out, yet you sent him this disgusting trash. Go to hell." As she shouted, she grabbed an 4-pole and hurled it at Makoto. Makoto couldn't dodge in time, and the pole struck his back. He groaned in pain. Willow, how could you be so heartless? Do you want to kill me? The doctor on duty, nurses, and patients from the other rooms all rushed in at the noise. At first, they weren't sure if the woman causing the ruckus was Willow, the movie queen, but she shouted it herself. Soon, everyone in the building gathered to watch the spectacle. Willow truly wanted to kill Makoto, even though she was carrying his child. The thought of the child made her pause. Every time she slept with Makoto, she made sure they took precautions. Yet here she was, pregnant. If Makoto wasn't involved, then who could have done this? Makoto had also carelessly bought an entire room of lilies, nearly causing George's death. Now, she understood Makoto's ambition. He pretended to be innocent and harmless in front of her, but behind her back, he was scheming. Thinking of this, Willow's heart ached. How devastated George must be. She had to bring Makoto to George and make him explain himself. Tell George that it was all forced upon her, that she hadn't been willing, and that she had been brainwashed by Makoto. George would forgive her. Yes, he would definitely forgive her. Willow pointed at Makoto and shouted, "Stay here and wait for me. When I find George, you'll crawl to him and beg for his forgiveness." Makoto, still hurt from the pole strike, refused to back down. "Willow, I swear I didn't do anything. I really love you." Makoto's passionate gaze met Willow's cold, vengeful one, and he involuntarily shuddered. Willow replied, "Makoto, I only love George. As for you, you're just a scumbag, a piece of trash. You think that by showing George that trash, I'll marry you? Not a chance. Willow, will never marry a man who climbs up on women." Outside the room, people whispered, gossip growing louder. Someone said, "No wonder she looks familiar. She's the movie queen. Is that guy in the bed her lover?" Others said, "This movie queen has no self-respect." Makoto clenched his fists, pounding the bed, his teeth grinding in fury. He cursed, "George, I hope you die out there." Willow turned on her heel and strode out of the room, determined to find George and explain everything to him. But would George ever forgive her? On her way out of the hospital, her phone suddenly began vibrating non-stop. It was her agent, Lisa. After listening to what Lisa had to say, Willow asked, "What trending topic?" Chapter 12. Willow was confused at first, but then she opened Facebook. The trending topic read, "Evidence of movie queen Willow's affair with male driver. Spying-like drama unfolds." The scandal about Willow's affair and a 1 terabyte of explosive content was trending and climbing higher by the minute. Willow slammed the brakes, stopping the car in the middle of the road, her eyes fixed on the pictures and videos, her blood rushing to her head. The comments under the trending topic were even more intense. "Clearly a slutty face, yet she pretends to be pure and innocent. I'd say she's more like a flower with a bad reputation. Looks like a scandalous secret. Even the goddess Willow has been brought down from her pedestal." Some netizens even dug up her Twitter account, exposing the contrast between her public persona and private behavior with harsh words, calling her a goddess in front of the cameras, but a bitch behind the scenes. A few unknown actresses came forward, revealing that Willow had once encouraged them to let directors take advantage of them. The comments kept rolling in. "Willow really lives up to her reputation. The more you dig, the more you find." On the other end of the line, her agent Lisa was yelling, "Willow, you better have a good explanation for all this." Behind her, the cars honked incessantly, and in frustration, Willow kicked the car light, shattering it. Her aggressor wasn't backing down, and soon enough, the police were called. Another trending topic appeared on Facebook. Movie queen Willow shows off attitude, disregards traffic laws, detained by police. In the detention center, Willow went into a frenzy, throwing objects around and refusing to cooperate with the officers. She screamed, "Give me back my phone. My husband is missing." The officer handling her case had already seen the affair news on Facebook and sneered at the so-called movie queen. He said, "You've brought this on yourself. If I were your husband, I'd never forgive you." Willow finally broke down, collapsing to her knees, sobbing uncontrollably. She pleaded, "Please, let me out. I need to find George. I need to find George." She regretted everything just because of one drunken night. Makoto had kissed her uncontrollably during the drive home, and she hadn't pushed him away. She thought, a kiss didn't count as cheating, right? Then it was a hug, still not cheating. But as time passed, her boundaries grew lower and lower. In the span of 8 years, Willow had risen from an unknown extra to the top-tier movie queen. She had many suitors, but her heart had always belonged to George, and she had never looked at anyone else. But Makoto was different. His passion was in stark contrast to the reserved George. His sweet words had lured her in, and with just a hint of temptation, she became weak, like a puppet with no will of her own. Makoto was like a ravenous beast, and in the back of his car, he relentlessly demanded her, again and again. until she was exhausted. Afterward, she felt regret and fear. She regretted giving in to temptation, and feared George would find out. She loved George too much. She couldn't live without him. Willow transferred money to Makoto, hoping to make him disappear for good. But Makoto refused. He said he wanted nothing but to stay by her side, promising, "Willow, I'll behave. I won't ask to be your husband. I just want to stay by your side." Willow replied, "But I already have a boyfriend. We're about to get married." Makoto heard the hesitation in her voice and wrapped his arms around her waist. He said, "Willow, you're a movie queen, a wealthy woman. It's not the old days anymore. Isn't it normal to have a lover?" He had read her thoughts correctly, and in the end, Willow was persuaded. She convinced herself that as long as she married George in the end, it wouldn't be considered cheating. It wouldn't be a betrayal of their promise. Willow had thought of Makoto only as an outlet for work stress, never imagining there would be any real consequence. But Makoto was right. Once you've tasted the finest delicacies, how can you go back to plain porridge? Her risk-taking grew bolder, and she eventually fell completely. She whispered to herself, "George, I deserve to die." I slept until noon, humming a tune while washing up, leisurely opening Facebook, seeing the rising trending topic. I felt a sense of satisfaction in getting back at Willow, but also a lingering regret over the 8 years of love that hadn't had a perfect ending. However, the winds had shifted quickly. The fans who had once cheered for Willow now turned on her, exposing even more of her black history. She had thrown tantrums on set, disappearing halfway through shoots. She had bullied up-and-coming actresses, deleting their scenes without permission. She had even stolen scenes, holding up the entire crew. And then I found a video uploaded by someone, Willow slapping Makoto in the hospital. Just like that, the once glorious movie queen was now notorious. But none of this mattered to me anymore. I logged off Facebook, unsubscribed from all apps that had once been associated with my name. I erased all traces of my past and began a new, clean slate. Chapter 13. When Willow was escorted out of the traffic police station by her agent, it was already the following morning. She said, "Lisa, can you arrange a press conference for me? I want to apologize to George. I need to know where he is now." Almost overnight, Willow had lost weight, looking thin and exhausted. Her agent shot her a frustrated look, shaking her head. "The most important thing right now is to clear up your relationship with that driver. As for George, I'm already trying to locate him for you." But Willow started to protest. Her agent interrupted. "If you don't apologize and clear this up, even if we find George, is there still any chance for you two?" Her words hit Willow like a lightning bolt. "Okay, arrange it quickly. I'll immediately clear up my relationship with Makoto." Her agent comforted her for a moment. "Don't rush. Take it slow for a couple of days. People's attention spans are short. Once the heat dies down a bit, we can hold the press conference." Willow nodded with her eyes closed, her mind fixed on finding George first. She was determined to kneel before George at the press conference and beg for his forgiveness. He would surely never let her career be ruined. Returning home, she looked around the empty mansion. A deep, complicated feeling surged within her. Before moving into this place, they had spent 3 years crammed into a tiny 50-square-meter apartment. At the time, Willow's career had just started, and George had disbanded his band to fully support her. She had faced repeated setbacks in her acting career, even contemplating giving it all up and changing professions. But it was George who kept encouraging her. "Willow, you're professionally trained and have the talent. I believe you'll succeed." That year, for George's birthday, Willow had taken his hand and brought him to this mansion. She said, "George, this is our home from now on." They embraced tightly, dreaming of a bright future together. Hand in hand, they went furniture shopping, slowly turning the cold, empty house into a warm and welcoming home. But now, the house was the same, and without George, it felt cold and lifeless. In the living room, their wedding photo still hung in the center. In the photo, George looked so happy, but in Willow's eyes, there was a sense of guilt and hesitation. That was the time when she had been having an affair with Makoto. After taking their wedding photos, she had hurried to find him. Did George already notice something was wrong back then? Her heart ached, and as she lay on the bed, tears flowed as she was overwhelmed with longing for him. Suddenly, she noticed a used condom in the trash can next to her bed. After every encounter, Makoto would toss them into the trash in the master bedroom. It was both a provocation and a show-off. Makoto. Once she found George, she would tear Makoto apart in front of him. Willow grabbed her phone and tried calling George several more times, but the same, out-of-service, message greeted her. Desperate, she started calling George's friends, humbling herself as she asked about his whereabouts. But his friends responded with cruel remarks. "Do you still have the nerve to look for George? Did you clean yourself up after what you've done? I was happy for George, thinking he was giving up music for you, but it turns out he's been feeding his time to a dog. Don't think I don't know. Even if I did, I wouldn't tell you." You shameless woman. The things they said were cruel, but Willow couldn't defend herself, too ashamed to speak up. In the end, everyone told her they didn't know where George was. He had disappeared without a trace, like he had evaporated into thin air. Willow even hired a private detective. She was willing to spend every last penny just to find George. Maria said she had gone mad. It's just George. Why does it have to be him? She said, Sis, wake up. You're carrying Makoto's child. In a fit of rage, Willow slapped her sister and kicked her out of the house. Willow's eyes were sunken as she sat alone in the bedroom all night. She whispered to herself, George, where are you? Then, suddenly, she remembered, George had been flipping through a magazine for a while. What was it called? The World of Music. She searched through the house, and finally found the magazine in the storage room, its pages worn and tattered from being repeatedly read. She flipped through it, almost feeling George's fingers on each page. The pages stopped at an article about the Vienna Music and Drama Academy in Austria. George had made numerous notes on it. Willow rushed to the airport, slamming her ID and passport onto the counter. I need a ticket to Austria on the next available flight. Sorry, ma'am, you are restricted from leaving the country. It was only then that Willow realized, along with the exposure of her affair, her financial matters had also drawn the attention of the authorities. All her properties and cars were frozen. She stared at the plane bound for Austria as it flew away, her heart sinking. Her George was getting farther and farther away from her. Chapter 14. I had once planned our honeymoon with Willow, and Vienna, Austria, was to be our first stop. Now, Willow had completely faded from my life, and the music dream I once thought was out of reach was finally within my grasp. I had successfully passed the preliminary auditions for the vocal and opera performance program at the Vienna Music and Drama Academy. Every day, I rode my bicycle back and forth between school and my apartment, seizing every moment to study German and learn about theater, fully immersing myself in preparing for the final exams. By early October, Vienna had embraced autumn, and the whole city had transformed into a scene from a movie. In the evening, I sat at a cafe by the street, enjoying the view outside the window. I pulled out my phone and sent video requests to a few friends back home. The response came immediately. George, finally, you remember me. How's everything going? Are you all right? I flipped the camera around, showing them the church and the foreign streets. My friends immediately started congratulating me. I knew you weren't that fragile, George. If you want to do something, there's nothing you can't achieve. I didn't have many friends growing up, but every single one of them had been a companion for decades. When the scandal about Willow's affair broke on Facebook, my friends were terrified, worried I would do something reckless. Now, as they saw the smile on my face and the light in my eyes through the camera, they knew I had won in this battle. I strolled down Vienna's streets, chatting animatedly with my friends. Apart from asking how I was adapting to life abroad, most of the conversation revolved around Willow and Makoto. As the heat around Willow's affair started to cool down, the company arranged a press conference for her. The venue was packed with reporters, all eager to grab the top headlines. Willow looked pale, with messy hair and ill-fitting clothes. As soon as she sat down, reporters bombarded her with questions. Willow, you've cultivated an image of a pure and innocent girl, but privately you were involved with your driver. What do you want to say to your husband and all your fans? You've portrayed characters full of deep affection and loyalty in your films. Did you feel guilty while filming these roles? You've been in a long-term relationship with George for 8 years and were about to get married. Don't you think it's a shame? In the past, reporters had always treated Willow with great respect, interviewing her politely. But now, their questions were sharp and relentless. Willow's face went even paler as she tried to avoid the flashing cameras. Her agent stepped in, grabbing the microphone. There's no truth to the rumors about Willow and Makoto. We strongly suspect that Makoto has used AI technology to fabricate these videos and images in order to manipulate the situation. We will take legal action to protect our artists' rights. At her agent's hint, Willow finally spoke up. She said, Makoto and I only had a professional relationship. As for the accusations that we were close, that's just the paparazzi's words. I'm about to marry my fiancé, George. I don't want this to affect our wedding. A reporter asked. I've heard you've been spending a lot of time with Makoto. Have you considered how your fiancé might feel about this? Willow's heart sank, and after a long pause, she answered, I just felt sorry for him. He had just graduated from college and was struggling alone in a big city. That's why I hired him as my driver. I never expected him to turn against me like this. But before she could say anything more, a voice rang out. It's you, Willow. Who's the ungrateful one? Makoto had unexpectedly appeared at the press conference, throwing the scene into chaos. He pulled out his phone and showed the explicit chat records between him and Willow. He shouted, Willow is pregnant with my child. This revelation was just as explosive as the affair scandal. The reporters erupted into heated discussions, then turned to Willow with more pointed questions. So what about George? Can we have him come to the press conference and clarify the situation? Are you really pregnant? How can you prove that the child isn't Makoto's? Willow's head spun, and she stood up, rushing toward the cameras. George, I was wrong. Please, don't leave me. It's all Makoto. He forced me. George, I love you. I swear, I only love you. Her agent could barely react in time to stop Willow. She was already losing control. The agent tried to salvage the situation, saying, "Journalists, the press conference will conclude here. Please follow the updates on the studio's Facebook page for further information." Staff tried to pull Willow away, but she struggled fiercely, even kneeling before the cameras, begging everyone to help her find George. Her eyes were bloodshot as she stared at Makoto, shouting, "I'll kill you." In the ensuing chaos, Willow was shoved to the ground. The pain made her vision go black. "Help me, someone, please help me." I listened to everything in silence, my heart completely unmoved. After all, both Willow and Makoto had nothing to do with me anymore. I would never have to see their disgusting faces again. A few days later, the landlord gave me a movie ticket. I decided to take a break from my studies and go watch it. It was a Western romance film, about a couple who fell in love at first sight, parted ways due to a misunderstanding, but eventually reunited. As the ending song played, the men and women around me were moved to tears. The girl sitting next to me, seeing my calm expression, asked in surprise, "Sir, aren't you moved? It's such a tragic love story." I shook my head. Like in the movie, I had fallen in love with Willow at first sight, but unfortunately, Willow couldn't hold onto that love, and it eventually turned rotten. From 17 to 25, 8 years of my youth wasted. How could I still believe in love? Now, I only wanted to immerse myself in the music I loved, without thinking about romance. Chapter 15. Meanwhile, the internal, at the hospital. When Willow arrived, there were signs of miscarriage. The doctors did their best to stabilize her and, for the moment, managed to save the baby. Makoto sat in the hospital corridor, consumed by regret. If only he hadn't been so greedy. If only he hadn't provoked George. Perhaps he could have continued as Willow's lover. Though their relationship was kept in the shadows, at least he would have been comfortable and worry-free. Now, Willow and he were completely estranged, and his own shame was exposed as the internet dug up his past, using his status as a friend of a famous actress to flirt with female actresses, and even sneaking into girls' dormitories to take photos while in university. The scandal had effectively ended his social life. Now, his only hope of survival was to hold on to Willow, no matter what. He immediately called Willow's mother and said, "You don't want your daughter to be labeled a slut, do you? And with a child without a father, it'll be her who's humiliated. There's only one way to fix this now. Willow needs to marry me." That might just save her career from the brink of collapse. The effects of the press conference continued to spiral, and Willow's agency, Tianjin Entertainment, saw its stock prices plummet as a result of the scandal. The company executives held an emergency meeting, and the studio issued a unilateral announcement to terminate their contract with Willow. As the walls came crashing down, major advertisers pulled their sponsorships, citing Willow's breach of contract, and demanded hefty compensation for their losses. A nationwide backlash against Willow erupted, with calls for her to be ousted from the entertainment industry. All the TV platforms scrambled to take down her films, TV shows, and variety programs. As a result, many stars and artists were also caught in the crossfire, taking to Facebook to condemn Willow. One by one, they accused her of being the rotten apple that ruined everything. The once celebrated movie queen had become a pariah, a target for public scorn. Faced with the enormous compensation demands, Willow was forced to sell off her properties, but it was barely enough to cover a fraction of the debts. Every day, her phone rang incessantly, calls to curse her out or demand repayment. Every unknown number that came through made her heart race as she answered in a trembling voice, "George, is it you?" And each time, the response came, "It's your father." But she couldn't change her number, nor could she turn off her phone. She was terrified of missing a call from George, unable to sleep or rest. She was slowly falling apart. She moved from the luxurious villa in the affluent district to a rundown, small apartment in the suburbs, sharing the space with her mother and sister in a cramped 50-square-meter home. Her mother, afraid of Willow being embarrassed for giving birth without a father for the child, had also brought Makoto into their home. Makoto, taking advantage of Willow's pregnancy with his child, treated Lu's mother and Maria with utter disdain. He said, "I'm telling you both, if you serve me well, I'll consider marrying Willow. Otherwise, she can just wait for her career to be destroyed." Lu's mother, who had to deal with both Willow's unstable mental state and Makoto's arrogant behavior, was exhausted. The poor woman, nearly 70, was suffering every day. She cried herself to sleep each night, and it wasn't long before she fell seriously ill. Willow knelt beside her mother's window, apologizing. "Mom, I've been unfilial. I've brought you so much suffering at your age. Lu's mother also regretted her past decisions, saying, I used to advise you to marry someone of equal status. George was just an orphan. He wouldn't help your career. Now I truly regret it. He was such a good son-in-law. The two women sobbed uncontrollably, holding each other tightly. Makoto, standing nearby, pointed at them and shouted, Stop with this mother-daughter act. Get me 1 million. I want a new car. Maria grabbed him, saying, Makoto, my mother is sick, and my sister is buried in debt. How could we have money for a new car? But Makoto refused to believe it. Willow used to make millions from a few-second ad or a single variety show, plus her many properties and cars. How could they suddenly be so poor? He coldly sneered, I don't care. If you don't have the money, I'll go to the media and tell them everything. That'll make sure Willow never gets to come back. Willow looked at Makoto coldly. She realized how blind she had been, falling for him and letting herself be led down this path to ruin. She transferred the remaining 100,000 yuan from her account to him and said, Take this and get lost. Don't ever show your face in front of me again. Makoto immediately changed his attitude. 180 degrees, he said. Willow, we're family. I was just saying that out of anger. Don't worry, I'll take good care of Mom. Willow clenched her mouth shut, glaring at her own belly as she tried to suppress the anger in her eyes. The suffering George had endured, she would make Makoto pay back tenfold. In the middle of the night, I received a cross-ocean phone call. George, Susanna's been in a car accident. Chapter 16. Susanna was the head of the orphanage I grew up in. I remember her as being so kind and gentle, treating every child as if they were her own. She was the only family I had in this world. A few days ago, she was scratched by an out-of-control car while out. For years, Willow would accompany me to the orphanage to visit Susanna. Each time, we would bring a truckload of supplies for the poor orphans. Susanna would smile at me and say, George, seeing you so happy makes Susanna more at ease. She would also hold Willow's hand and say, George is a good boy, you won't regret choosing him. Willow swore right there, I will only love you in this lifetime, and if I don't, may I fall from grace and live a miserable life. But just a year later, Willow had already broken her promise. She deserved the fall from grace. I said, Tell Susanna that I'll be back tomorrow. After hanging up, a wave of bitterness swept over me. Fortunately, there was still some time before the re-examination. I immediately booked a flight back to my homeland. After a long flight, 2 months later, I finally returned to my homeland. I didn't even have time to rest before heading straight to the hospital. Seeing Susanna lying on the bed, so thin and frail, I felt immense guilt. For more than half a year, I had been preoccupied with the mess involving Willow and Makoto, never even bothering to check on her. I immediately hired a caregiver and stayed to take care of her myself. The doctor said Susanna's condition was stable, so I started making plans to take her to Austria for retirement. As I turned a corner, I saw Maria sitting on the bench outside the gynecology and obstetrics department. Next, Willow. The nurse called her name, and that's when I noticed the pregnant woman sitting next to Maria was Willow. I helped Willow into the consultation room, and when Maria turned around and saw me, her expression froze. Brother-in-law. Maria quickly caught up with me, saying, Brother-in-law, is that really you? She excitedly grabbed my sleeve, her eyes filled with tears. I coldly looked at her and said, I'm no longer your brother-in-law. You've got the wrong person. She said, Brother-in-law. George, my sister really knows she's wrong. After you left, my mom got sick. My sister owes so much money. What's worse is that Makoto refuses to leave our house, and my mom and I still have to serve him. It's miserable. My sister's pregnant, but she still has to work odd jobs to make money. Brother-in-law, you have to help us. Maria spoke through sobs, detailing her family's misery. I shook off her hand and asked, But what does this have to do with me? Maria froze. She said, George, how could you be so heartless? Heartless? The situation they were in now was their own fault. They had no one to blame but themselves. I said, If you still care about me a little, pretend you didn't see me. When I returned to Susanna's room, she had just woken up. George, why are you here alone? Where's Willow? Susanna still didn't know about Willow's infidelity, and since her health wasn't good, I didn't want to trouble her with the news. I said, She's busy with work. You know how it is with these actresses, they're in the middle of filming for months at a time. But Susanna saw the change in my expression. George, Susanna can't help you with anything, but whatever decision you make, I'll support you. I felt a pang in my heart. I had lost so much weight recently that anyone could tell something was wrong. I explained the whole situation to Susanna, from start to finish, about Willow's betrayal. Susanna, heartbroken, took my hand and said, The moment I saw you, I knew you hadn't been well lately. 8 years. George, Willow was such a fool. I tried to sound casual. Susanna, It's all in the past. I'm starting a new life. I've applied to a music academy and am waiting for the re-examination. I also plan to bring you to Austria to live with me." Susanna's eyes still showed concern as she said, "Good child, can you really let it go?" I smiled reassuringly and said, "I've truly let it go." I helped Susanna lie back down to sleep, but as I glanced outside the room, I saw someone pacing back and forth. I opened the door, and to my surprise, it was Willow. George. Even though she was only 3 meters away, I didn't recognize her at first. Willow's dull eyes lit up as soon as she saw me. She said, "George, it's really you. Maria said she saw you at the hospital, and I didn't believe it." Willow rushed forward, wanting to throw herself into my arms, but I quickly stepped back 2 paces to distance myself from her. Willow stared at me in disbelief, her heart aching at the rejection. 4 days, she had been haunted by nightmares and desperately yearned for me. Finally, she had a chance to see me, but, during all this time, she had regretted her actions countless times, thinking that if she could just explain herself, I would return to her. It wasn't until this moment that Willow truly realized she was about to lose me. Her voice trembled as she asked, "George, don't you love me anymore?" I didn't want to wake Susanna, so I turned and started walking downstairs. Willow followed closely behind me. "George, please let me explain." At first, Makoto forced me. I admit, I'm a weak woman, thinking it would only be once, just that once. But who knew he would keep pestering me? I didn't want anything to come of it. Your health had been bad these past few years, so I thought. I was speechless. So she went to cheat with Makoto because of my health issues. I stopped in my tracks and looked at her. She opened her mouth, but the words wouldn't come out. How ironic. She cared about my health, but did she ever think about my heart? When I saw the pictures Makoto sent me of Willow seducing him, my world came crashing down. My body went stiff, and my stomach twisted with pain. What was Willow doing at that time? She was lying beneath Makoto, letting him satisfy his animal desires. Chapter 17. Makoto was the one who initiated everything. Does that mean Willow is innocent? She could have rejected him. Even after the first time with Makoto, she still had the chance to turn back, but she didn't. Makoto gave her one excuse after another to keep falling. "Willow," I said coldly, "do you believe what you're saying? Do you think the words you're saying are even human? Even if he forced you at the beginning, you actively chose to keep entangling with Makoto under my nose. Every late night, when you two were being crazy, I was upstairs. I saw and heard everything. I had hoped those painful memories had faded, but when I brought it up, my heart still ached unbearably. Faced with my accusations, Willow was ashamed to the core. She said, "George, I'm really sorry for hurting you, but could you give me one more chance?" She reached out to grab my hand, but I immediately shrugged her off. I said, "Don't touch me, I'm afraid of catching something." Willow's desperation was clear as she knelt in front of me, crying, begging, "George, just give me one more chance. I'll do anything for you." But she forgot, what could she offer now? Money, status, or her dirty body? I sneered and said, "Keep your dirty body for Makoto." Willow froze in place, my disgust cutting into her heart like a dagger. Only after I walked away did she stagger to her feet. "Heh," she bitterly smiled to herself. George was right. Why did I even do this? If I knew today, why bother back then? As she walked, she muttered to herself, "You reap what you sow. You reap what you sow." Burdened by a huge penalty for breaking her contract, Willow had no choice but to work odd jobs, her big belly the only thing she could hide behind. But what could a pregnant woman do? She wanted to abort, but her mother absolutely refused. With no other choice, she had to return to her old profession, constantly auditioning. But by now, her reputation in the industry was so bad that no director would dare to cast her. Every morning, she would sit outside various sets, fighting with other extras for roles. The average extra earned $200 a day, but she only got $100, for which she was scolded by the others. Finally, she landed a role as a silent servant. With nothing but a box of plain rice for lunch, she went to the stage manager and asked, "Brother, could you give me some vegetable soup?" But was mocked in return. "Want a 4-course meal too?" Huh. The former queen of the screen. She sat in a corner of the set, eating rice with water. After a whole day of shooting, starving and exhausted, when she went to collect her pay, she was told there was no salary. The stage manager said, the director said, "You're a bad actress, so all your scenes have been cut. We haven't even asked you for compensation for wasting your time. Now, hurry up and leave." From then on, she only got roles as corpses, and the more tragic the death, the better. One day, she got a call for another audition. The person asked, $500 a day, are you in? Willow was so eager she didn't even ask what the role was. Quickly agreeing, she knelt by her mother's sickbed and said, "Mom, I can act again. You have to hang on. I will make the most of this chance." She then came to me and said, George, wait for me to make a comeback. I will clean myself up. I could only feel disgust. Willow met the director, nodding and bowing. No longer the image of the former queen of the screen. After confirming the details, she was taken away for makeup. The stage manager asked, "Director, with so many actors to choose from, why pick this one with a reputation that's completely ruined?" The director smiled maliciously and said it was because the investor specifically requested Willow for this role. Because it was, he said. Ha ha ha. I really look forward to seeing the pure little flower from the past play. The makeup artist applied thick foundation on Willow's face, blue and green eyeshadow on her eyelids, and bright red lipstick, the makeup extravagant and gaudy. Willow looked at her increasingly strange reflection in the mirror, unable to resist asking, "Excuse me, what kind of character am I playing?" The makeup artist, already aware of her scandal with Makoto, didn't bother to answer her, rolling her eyes and saying, "I don't know." Willow wisely kept her mouth shut. She thought to herself that as long as she could act again, even if it was a beggar or a thief, she was willing. When she changed into leopard print shorts and a camisole and arrived at the set, she finally realized that her role was that of a street prostitute. Willow gritted her teeth and played along. The leading lady was once an actress who couldn't even hold a candle to Willow, but now she had become a first-tier star. She said, "Oh, isn't this the once great Lou, the queen of the screen? How did you fall to the role of a street prostitute? Ha ha ha." Her sarcastic words drew loud laughter from the entire set, and Willow's face turned bright red with embarrassment. But she couldn't lash out. She could only smile and stand there. The first scene had her standing in the red light district, trying to attract customers. Willow endured the humiliation, trying to strike a seductive pose. The leading lady arrogantly delivered her line, "You don't know how to keep your dignity. Any men can climb on top of you. You're so cheap." Just as a large, pot-bellied man approached and grabbed her, the entire set burst into laughter. Willow recalled what George had said to her, "I'm afraid of catching something. Keep your dirty body away from me." In that moment, she finally broke down and cried, "Why do you have to do this to me?" Not far away, the investor, arms crossed, sneered and said, "Why, don't you know what you did? You're a trashy person." On the phone, my friend told me that he had arranged for Willow to play the street prostitute role, and I felt a mix of amusement and pity. He said, "George, you know Willow playing a street prostitute? She looks so ugly." Ha ha ha. I laughed along for a moment before responding, "Thanks, brother. But from now on, this person really has nothing to do with me." After hanging up, I saw a post on Facebook. Former queen of the screen now reduced to playing a street prostitute. Breakdown on set. The comments from netizens were even more merciless. Deserved. She should be playing a street prostitute after being so promiscuous. I volunteer to play any role with zero pay, just so I can touch the pure little flower. Boycott Willow's comeback. She's not fit for any role. Chapter 18. As I was approaching the door to the hospital room, I overheard Willow's voice from inside. "Susanna, it's Willow." Willow was kneeling by Susanna's sickbed, crying and pleading, but Susanna didn't give her any sympathy. She said, "After doing something so shameful, what are you doing here?" "Susanna, I truly know I was wrong. Please, help me talk to George. I can't live without him." Willow went on and on, expressing her guilt toward me, swearing she would love only me for the rest of her life. Susanna, though, couldn't help but soften her heart a little. She said, "I heard from George that you're pregnant with someone else's child." "Willow, listen to me, live a simple life. Stop chasing these illusions." Willow blankly repeated, "Pregnant, pregnant." She looked down at her belly. Yes, if it wasn't for Makoto's child, would George have forgiven her? I didn't want Susanna to be disturbed any longer. I pushed the door open and said coldly, "Leave. Don't come back to disturb Susanna anymore, and don't come looking for me." Willow grabbed my hand, her eyes shining with hope. She said, "George, is it true that as long as I don't have Makoto's child anymore, you'll forgive me?" I looked at Willow, who had lost her sanity, and took out my phone to call the security office. I said, "There's a lunatic here. Come take her away." Willow was escorted out by security, shouting that she would take revenge on me. I didn't know what kind of revenge she intended to take. Wasn't she the one who had hurt herself the most? I had a bad premonition that I no longer wanted to be involved with the Liu family or Makoto. I said, "Susanna, let's leave next week." "Okay." Susanna, with pain in her eyes, patted my cold hand. "Okay." The next few days, I couldn't sleep well, always having strange dreams. In one of the dreams, I was confessing my love to Willow. She was wearing a white dress, smiling gently. She said, "George, I promise I love you too." We were on the beach, the sea breeze blowing. I spun Willow around in my arms, but then, Willow's white dress suddenly turned red, blood red. Then, Makoto appeared, holding a large bouquet of lilies, and looked at me maliciously, saying, Mr. Wong, these flowers are from Willow. Do you like them? I ran desperately, screaming, who will save me? Not far away, Willow looked at me coldly and said, George, Makoto is the father of the child in my belly. Ha ha. Her laugh was deafening, and I woke up in a cold sweat. Mr. Wong, your situation is classified as PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. We recommend medication and psychological counseling. I couldn't help but smile at the diagnosis. I thought the trauma was behind me, but I didn't realize that it had been buried deep inside me like a seed. Willow's repeated appearances had activated that seed. When Susanna found out, she scolded Willow fiercely and then took my hand, wanting to leave immediately. We're leaving. Let's get far away from these lunatics. I smiled and nodded. Every day, Willow showed up downstairs at the hospital, desperately begging for my forgiveness. I watched from the window as security drove her away like a stray dog. I felt no pity for her, only relief. Willow, good deeds bring good rewards, and bad deeds bring bad rewards. Heaven's punishment for Willow was the loss of her career and status, but Makoto's punishment was still ongoing. Since we moved to the old, run-down house in the suburbs, our quality of life had dropped significantly. At first, Makoto naively thought that the starving camel is still bigger than the horse. He believed that as long as he clung to Willow, they would eventually live a good life. But soon he realized that Willow had no money left, and her belly was growing bigger every day. After graduating from university, Makoto had never held a proper job. His pride made him too selective. He looked down on jobs that paid well but weren't glamorous, while jobs with a decent salary didn't meet his standards. When he saw others making money from live streaming, he decided to try it too. Using borderline streaming, Chapter 19, he said, Ladies, you can take off your coats, but don't forget to send a gift to this little brother of yours. He was wearing a deep V-neck suit, his chest and abs faintly visible. Someone in the live stream recognized him and said, Oh, isn't that the little third party? Guess he and Willow make a perfect match. Scumbag and bitch. Makoto, far from feeling ashamed, actually seemed proud. He changed his screen name to Pure Little Brother. Behind the scenes, he was even selling the unspeakable videos of him and Willow at a low price. Willow's mother was lying in her bedroom, so angry that her blood pressure shot up. You wretch, you've disgraced the Liu family. Makoto gave her a contemptuous glance and said, Damn old hag, you wouldn't let Willow abort the child back then, and now you're regretting it. Maria couldn't stand it and started arguing with Makoto. The two of them got into a physical fight, right in front of the live stream camera. When Willow came home and saw this, she rushed over and slapped Makoto hard. Makoto, aren't you ashamed enough already? Makoto went into a rage, pointing at Willow and shouting, You'd better get this straight. The whole damn family is relying on my live streaming to make a living, and you, a useless piece of trash, dare to yell at me. If it wasn't for you forcing me, would I have ended up like this? She actually thought it was Makoto who had ruined her life, completely unaware of her own wrongdoings. Makoto sneered, Willow, stop inflating your own importance. Even flies won't land on a spotless egg. What do you think you are? The viewers in the live stream cheered, well said. In the midst of the chaos, Makoto punched Willow in the stomach. Willow was sweating from the pain, but she still ran in front of the camera and shouted to George, George, if I get rid of the child in my belly, will you come back to me? She had truly lost her mind. Willow was rushed to the hospital and after a long and exhausting day and night, she gave birth to a boy. But after the birth, she suffered severe blood loss, and to save her life, the doctors had to remove the child. Her mother, Maria, was also sent to the hospital with acute brain infarction. Before she could see her longed-for grandson, she passed away. On one side was the joy of a newborn, and on the other, the sorrow of losing her mother. Willow lay on the hospital bed, her eyes hollow and vacant. Maria, unable to bear the burden any longer, stole the last 20,000 yuan from Willow's card and ran off with a small-time thug. The nurses urged Willow to pay the hospital fees. Her child was diagnosed with congenital heart disease and needed surgery immediately. But because she couldn't afford the funeral expenses for her mother, her body had to be temporarily stored in the hospital's cold storage. The daily storage fee of 200 yuan had been overdue for several days, and the hospital had warned her repeatedly, if she didn't pay soon, her mother's body would be discarded on the streets to rot. Willow called up her former close friends, asking, Can you lend me 50,000 yuan? A friend who used to be close enough to share a cup of milk tea mocked her, saying, Lending you money would be like throwing a meat bun to a dog, nothing will come back. Do you still think you're a movie queen? My dog's life is better than yours. Willow looked at the few contacts left in her phone. All of them had blocked her. It was only now that she realized she had nothing left. I had just finalized Susanna's discharge date with the attending doctor and booked the flight tickets. As I stepped out of the doctor's office, I saw Willow standing barefoot at the door. As soon as she saw me, She rushed over and grabbed my hand tightly. She said, "George, I've given birth to the child. See, my belly is empty now. Will you forgive me?" Willow's hair was a mess, and her face was pale from the heavy blood loss. I shook her off and said, "Willow, when you were cheating, didn't you ever think about what kind of consequences you would face today?" Willow clung to me, relentlessly saying, "George, it's retribution. The child had heart disease and is going to die." I replied, "You should go find the child's father, not me. I'm not a fool, and I'm definitely not your backup." Willow collapsed on the ground, crying at first, then suddenly laughing. She said, "Makoto actually said the child isn't his, that it's a bastard. Ha ha ha. I deserve it. I truly deserve it." But before she could say any more, Makoto suddenly rushed in, holding a knife and lunging at me. "It's all your fault that I'm in this mess." The attack came so suddenly that I didn't have time to react. Just as the knife was about to strike me, Willow dashed in front of me, taking the blow. Chapter 20. The knife grazed my arm, and cut into Willow's neck, causing blood to pour out. I was done with this farce. I turned and walked away, but Willow chased me down to the first floor, kneeling before me in front of everyone. She said, "George, I deserve all of this. My mother's dead. My sister's run away. I've suffered enough punishment. Can't you forgive me?" I had long since seen through her selfishness and cold-heartedness, and I exposed her without mercy. "Willow, you're only remorseful because you've lost your status as a movie queen and all the money. It's not because you truly feel sorry for me. If you were still an actress today, would you even think cheating was wrong? You keep saying you're innocent, but was anyone holding a knife to your neck, forcing you to sleep with Makoto? If you really believe you deserve punishment, then stop dragging me into your already ruined life." I had no intention of getting involved with her any longer. Susanna's discharge had already been arranged, and tomorrow we'd fly back to Finland. I'd received the notification for my re-examination. I would no longer give up on my music dream for anyone. "George, I told you I would take revenge for you." I was confused by her words. Suddenly, the crowd gathered around shouted, "She's holding a child." Willow had actually brought out the child from the ICU. Willow had truly gone mad. As she went insane, the crowd surged forward to restrain her, and someone called the police. I took one last look at Willow, turned, and left without looking back. Willow tried to get up and chase me, but the arriving police officers pinned her to the ground. Her face was streaked with tears and snot. She pleaded, "George, please don't leave, don't leave." Her hoarse cries were soon silenced by the police officers' stun guns. At the airport, I pushed Susanna onto the plane for our long journey, though my PTSD was still severe and required long-term medication. I believed the dark clouds would eventually clear. If I couldn't see the boat pass through, I would climb over mountains. After I brought Susanna back, the house I rented was a bit cramped. Since I had already immigrated, I decided to buy a detached villa. In December, I was busy with the final preparations for my re-examination. I found a quiet mountain forest to practice my cello. I sat in the middle of the forest, closed my eyes, and played a beautiful melody. As I finished the piece, applause suddenly rang out behind me. A voice said, "Bach's Prelude in G major, Bach in the Rain. Your cello technique is really impressive." I turned my head in the direction of the voice and saw a young Asian girl standing behind me, holding a cello as well. I asked, "Hello, I'm George. May I know your name?" The girl nodded and said, "Hello, my name is Anna." Maybe it was because we were both in a foreign country, but when I met Anna, I lowered my guard. We started talking, and I said, "I've been in Vienna for more than 2 months." She was 2 years younger than me, and she turned out to be a freshman at the Vienna University of Music and Performing Arts. She had come to Austria for high school and stayed in Vienna because of her love for music. She had already settled in Vienna. She asked, "And you, why did you choose to live here?" I thought carefully and then replied, "Because I've always had my own music dream. I once gave up on music because of certain people and things, but Vienna is the music paradise in my heart, so I came here." Anna nodded in agreement and said, "But aren't you afraid of the hardships? Studying music is a difficult road." I smiled and said, "No matter how hard the road is, it will eventually have an end, right?" We talked a lot, about music, about dreams. I invited her to dinner, saying that Susanna's cooking was excellent. During dinner, she said, "Wow, I really haven't had such authentic Chinese food in 2 years." Anna kept praising Susanna's cooking. Susanna was flattered by the compliments. She said, "This child's got such a sweet tongue. If you ever want to eat hometown dishes, just come find Susanna. I'll make them for you." Anna looked at me, and carefully asked, "Is that really okay?" When I nodded, she broke into a smile. The next day, we ran into each other again outside the exam hall. She said, "George, good luck." I replied, "Anna, good luck." We exchanged a confident smile and walked into the exam hall with full confidence. Chapter 21. During the days of waiting for the re-examination results, Anna kept finding excuses to come over to my house. Sometimes she would claim she had run out of salt and drop by for a meal. Other times, she'd say her heating was broken and needed to warm up. Susanna noticed that Anna had developed feelings for me and tentatively asked, "Anna's a good kid, what do you think?" I remained silent. Susanna sighed and said, "George, I'm really happy you've picked up your music dream again. It shows that you're willing to start over. People have to keep moving forward." I looked at Susanna and said, "Susanna, give me some more time." I could see what Anna was hinting at, but I needed time. The day before Christmas, I finally received the acceptance email from the Vienna University of Music and Performing Arts. I clicked the confirmation button and nearly jumped up with excitement. Susanna laughed at me, still as mischievous as when you were a child. At the same time, Anna also received her acceptance email and came running to share the news with me. Before I knew it, it was time for school. I walked into the music hall of my dreams, carrying my cello, gazing at the portraits of world-renowned musicians born in Vienna. There were Mozart, Haydn, Beethoven, Schubert. In this lifetime, I would accompany music and realize my own life's value. "George." I turned around, and Anna was standing not far away, smiling brightly. 1 year later, I received some news. After I left, the hospital had set a date for the surgery on Willow's child. But in the end, Willow's child didn't make it to that day. Makoto was arrested by the police for intentional injury and was detained in the holding cell for half a month before being released. During this time, Willow hastily buried her mother in a desolate field with no headstone. She bowed heavily before the grave and said, "Mom, once I finish what I need to do, I'll come join you." She bought a knife from a nearby store and headed for the suburbs. She returned to the old house in the suburbs where Makoto had been staying since he was released from the detention center. After locking the door behind her, Willow stabbed Makoto before he even realized what was happening. She said, "Go find him, kneel down, and apologize. Beg for his forgiveness." Afterwards, Willow called the police herself. By the time they arrived, Makoto was already lying in a pool of blood. Willow, covered in blood, sat blankly on the sofa, murmuring to herself, "George, I avenged you. Come back soon." Willow was eventually convicted of intentional homicide and sentenced to life imprisonment. While being transferred to a different prison, she was diagnosed with a terminal illness in its late stages. Out of humanitarian concern, she was sent to the hospital for free treatment. The excruciating pain of the terminal illness often left Willow curled up on her bed crying in agony. Unable to bear it any longer, she ran to the rooftop and jumped. She died on the spot. The promise Willow made years ago, "George, I will only love you in this life. If not, let me be disgraced and die a miserable death," had tragically come true. The hospital staff said she left behind a letter for me and asked if they should send it. I refused and said, "Just burn it for me, along with the painful memories of the past 8 years. Let it all be burned away." Chapter 22. I went to see the psychologist for the last time. The doctor, with his broken Chinese, said to me, "Congratulations, George. You can stop the medication now." The nightmares that had once haunted me finally dissipated. I walked briskly down the street, feeling lighter and more at ease than I had ever felt before. And through this long, difficult journey, I was grateful to have had Susanna by my side. Of course, there was also Anna, who, every day, seemed like a little sunbeam, always laughing and dancing around me. Maybe, just like Susanna said, it was time for me to start over. Before I knew it, Christmas arrived in Vienna. Early in the morning, a loud knock on the door woke me from my sleep. I opened the door, half dazed, and there it was, a huge Christmas tree standing on my doorstep. I was startled. Anna peeked out from behind the tree. "Merry Christmas." I couldn't help but laugh. She pretended to be angry, hands on her hips. "George, aren't you going to help me bring the Christmas tree inside?" I affectionately patted her on the head, rolled up my sleeves, and helped carry the tree into the living room. Together, we decorated the tree, hanging candles, baubles, and stars. Anna also brought over some gift boxes and piled them under the tree. I picked up one of the hefty gift boxes and asked her, "Are there really gifts inside?" She mysteriously snatched it back and placed it under the tree, saying, "We'll open them together tomorrow." I teased, "Pfft, I'm not interested in opening it." While Anna was on a ladder hanging Christmas hats, I couldn't resist my curiosity and secretly opened one of the boxes. Inside was a newly composed piece of music. "Do you like it?" Anna appeared behind me, though I hadn't heard her approach. She said, "This is a piece I composed over 3 months. It's a cello duet." Her eyes sparkled as she looked at me, her breath so close that I felt a sense of comfort I hadn't felt in a long time. After dinner, Susanna, Anna, and I went for a stroll in the streets. Vienna had dressed itself in its Christmas best, with adults and children alike wearing Santa suits. Even the cats and dogs were dressed in Christmas costumes. Anna somehow managed to find some Santa hats and put one on herself, one on me, and one on Susanna. She even stuck a fake beard on me, saying, "George, you're Santa Claus. I'm going to make a wish, and you have to help me make it come true." Her excited antics made Susanna and me laugh out loud. Anna ran ahead, shouting, "I wish George would always laugh happily, his smile purer than the snow on the Alps. And Susanna would become even more beautiful, the most beautiful Susanna in the world." I couldn't help but agree with Susanna. Anna really was a charmer, I said. "You're really sweet. No wonder Susanna likes you so much. She keeps calling you Anna, Anna, and says she wants to adopt you as her goddaughter." Susanna quickly added, "Then I'd have both a son and a daughter." Anna suddenly stopped her playful demeanor and leaned in close to my ear. "And what about you, George? Do you like me?" I didn't know how to answer. Just as I was about to speak, I heard someone shout, "Fireworks!" Brilliant fireworks cascaded down from the sky, accompanied by fleeting shooting stars, beautiful like a fairy tale. Stars travel through billions of light years to meet humanity here, just like we crossed all those latitudes and longitudes to meet each other in Vienna. Anna turned to look at me, bathed in the glow of the aurora, and confessed seriously, "I want to hug you." For all the overwhelming love I feel, I turned to face her, saying, "Anna, I think I'm more suited for this." She gasped, covering her mouth, and tears began to well up in her eyes. I asked, "Anna, would you like to play a piece with me?"